Hello, News Tribune arts and entertainment reporter Jay Gabler back with another special Saturday edition of the Duluth News Tribune Minute. Once again this week, I will be reading my column from this week, and this week's column is all about a very memorable experience I had last weekend on the aerial lift bridge. Late Saturday morning, the operator running the aerial lift bridge stepped outside of the span's pilot house to peer down at an unusual spectacle. Over 20 people wrapped in brightly colored quilts were standing on the bridge's pedestrian walkway. "We brought you a little color today," one woman yelled. The textile parade was organized by the Lake Superior Modern Quilt Guild, who alternately referred to it as a quilt walk and a virtual quilt show. The quilt walk served as, quote, a preview of the quilts that will be on display at the Guild's first ever quilt show to be held in March. That's according to a statement from the Guild. As the quilters assembled in Canal Park, Leslie Hughes said, "We said maybe we just need some preliminary shot of color beforehand to let people know about what we have to offer." Melanie Anderson said, "I can't believe this is actually happening." Anderson saw an Instagram video of some English quilters taking a walk around their quaint village, and she suggested the Duluth quilters do the same thing, substituting our own distinctive local scenery. Melanie Anderson continued, "I love this group because they're so incredibly creative. I mean, look at all the color. This is not traditional. This is not the quilting your grandma did. These women are artists, always challenging, always pushing our boundaries with color and design." Now, most of the quilt walkers were indeed women, but Scott Lunt, whose nickname is Starfire, also joined in. He was wearing a quilt decorated with patches he's collected during his travels. He said, "It's my camping quilt." If his name is familiar, that might be because he is well known as founder of the Homegrown Music Festival. Liz Johnson, a woman who described herself as the Guild's newest member, walked up and greeted Lunt. She was wearing a quilt including fabric with red-hued raccoons pawing at aquamarine trash cans. Lunt said to her, "So, you went with the Tula." He was referencing fabric designer Tula Pink, and she agreed, "I went with the Tula. Tiny beasts," she named the fabric collection. Lunt explained, "People are really getting into prints again, modern fabrics and modern designs." Saturday's quilt walkers were effusive in their enthusiasm for modern quilting, which is differentiated from traditional quilting by a more freewheeling approach. Since 2013, the Duluth-based Lake Superior Modern Quilt Guild has been part of the International Modern Quilt Guild, which also has a Minneapolis unit, among many, many others. Analu Hovis said, "Usually, when someone thinks about a quilt, they think of a quilt that goes on someone's bed, and it's a little muted in colors, very traditional patterns. But with the Modern Quilt Guild, it's pushing the boundaries, taking something that might be traditional and seeing how you can use your imagination and really break the pattern, make something amazing." I also talked with Maeve Fairbanks. She's a recent Dartmouth College graduate who now works at Duluth's McTavish Quilting Studio. She was wearing the first blanket she quilted herself. She explained to me, "The function of quilting is to sew the three parts together, the three layers. The stitching over the top of the piecing is the quilting. Some people are piecers, some people are quilters, and some people do both." Anderson talked about Karen McTavish, who's the quilter and, by the way, advanced angler, whose studio is a regular meeting place for local guild members. Anderson said, "She's known worldwide. It's amazing that she's in Duluth." Analu Hovis was among the quilters who had their phones out to document the parade. She called out, "There's going to be a little video, so please do a little twirl and strut your stuff," and everybody laughed. Once the quilt walk reached the lift bridge, Hovis had to yell to be heard above the drone of passing cars and the rustle of ice floes in the Duluth Ship Canal. She said, "Lift your quilt and hold on tight." Scott Lunt said, "I've lived in Duluth over 30 years. This is like the third time I've ever walked on this bridge." Canal Park was pretty wind-whipped on Saturday morning, and visitors were scarce, but the few people who were present gaped at the quilters. They waved, they snapped photos. Later that day, the Guild shared video of the walk, and that video earned dozens of shares. Hovis said, "It's just things that bring people joy. Look at everyone that's here. You just see smiles on their faces. It's a lot of fun, and it builds community." She continued, "A quilt is more than just a piece of fabric. It's care. It's love. It's generosity." The Lake Superior Modern Quilt Guild's upcoming show, called the Modern Quilt Walkabout, will be on display in Lincoln Park from March 1st through 31st, with displays at both Inger Lofts and Duluth Pottery and Tile. For more information about that show, you can see lakesuperiormqg.com. to read this story online and see the amazing photos that Clint Austin took while we were out on the quilt walk, you can go to duluthnewstribune.com. Next week for my column, I'm going to be writing about a local landmark that I think is an underappreciated gem. It's not secret. You know about it. You've maybe even been there. But I don't think we talk about it enough. That'll be the subject of my column this week. And also, with Oscar nominations coming out on January 24th, I'll be writing capsule reviews of 4 top contenders. That's coming up this week in Front Row Seat and Shortcuts. I'm Jay Gabler with the Duluth News Tribune. Have a great weekend.